Well, happy, beautiful day. Dr. Bob Rakowski here with this week's edition of the Dr. Bob Rakowski podcast. I have Miss Kelsey Marie here. And I'll tell you what, you look at her, she's young, she's fit, she's beautiful, she's on purpose. But I'll tell you what, she's an old soul. She's got some very deep wisdom that goes through generations. And by the way, if that doesn't resonate with your consciousness, listen to her, and if don't see, you'll see that she has multiple generations of epic wisdom to share. So Kelsey Marie, happy, beautiful day. Where are you? Tell us about that beautiful background and what you are all about.
First of all, that's the best introduction ever. Thank you so much. And I love how you say happy, beautiful day. It's such a double positive, optimistic way to greet someone. And then that introduction alone, thank you, that got my heart racing. I'm in Costa Rica. This is a fake tapestry background, but it suits the Costa Rican vibe that I'm in. So yeah, that's where I'm calling in from.
And you were talking about your mission. You help with transition. And I want to say a few things about that. I talk about myself being wellness transformation. We talk about lifestyle, eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right. But you're talking body, mind, and spirit, and using ancient plant medicine to help the process.
Yep. Yeah. So
share your journey, and how did you get from where you started? And I'm imagining there had to be a hero's journey. You had to face some kind of dragon, some type of enemy to fight. What was that, and how did you get where you are now?
Okay. So back in 2017, 2018, I was married. I was like 22, 23. We met in Australia. We couldn't live in Australia together, so he came here to Canada with me. We got married for simplicity's sake, but as we all know, anyone that's done that, the marriage is easy, it's the divorce that's hard. I found out that he was unfaithful. There was infidelity, betrayal with two of my friends. It was quite a traumatic experience for me, very shocking. I was moving through a lot. So then I ended up into harder substances and alcohol, nightlife, party scene, all that stuff to really suppress the emotions and the hurt that I was feeling. And at 23, 24, I broke out in like terrible cystic acne. I was starting to hold a lot of water weight. I was gaining a lot of weight, all the drinking, all the terrible lifestyle choices, not sleeping well, not pooping right, all those things. But my face was so swollen and I just looked so different. So I went down a rabbit hole of like, how can I heal myself? My skin's been perfect. I was always fit. I was always healthy. And then it was all starting to go. The trauma that I was holding in my body that I'll touch on later was just starting to catch up with me.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So trauma, we're talking emotional trauma. We're talking PTSD. You weren't physically abused or anything like that, correct?
No, but just the trauma of like, I thought my life was going one way. And then all of a sudden the next day, it's like totally like eruption. This is not how your life is going to be. And I was also dealing with a lot of grief and loss. I lost my father earlier. I was dealing with so much unresolved and a lot of suppressed emotions. And so when that happened, another significant traumatic event, that put me into a state of dysfunction, essentially. So then I started working with natural doctors and I started working with functional medicine, trying to heal my gut, to heal my skin. And so I started learning a lot about that correlation. A year later, I decided, you know what, I love this. People need to know about this. So then I became a gut health coach. I started working with natural doctors and I was doing the health coaching, doing the meal plans. And then I noticed everyone can't stay consistent with their meal plans. And it was frustrating. I wasn't frustrated at them, but I wanted them to see results. And so I started going deeper, like, why is this such a problem for everyone, And then I realized, well, there's multiple different things that hold you back from staying consistent and being able to eat right foods and work out. It's easier said than done.
So now we get to the bridge. So you saw that and you're a seeker. You want your patients to get better. I think everyone that works with anybody in any way, they genuinely want them to get better, but we can't control that, can we? So what did you find was missing in most cases and how do we get beyond that?
So then simultaneously at this time, as I'm doing the coaching, I'm also going deeper into my work with plant medicine, psychedelics, which is introducing me to breathwork meditation and Reiki. And so I'm getting all these other certifications and having all these other experiences that is deepening my awareness and my healing journey. And I'm realizing, oh, there's a connection between the trauma and the gut health. There's a connection between your moods and your gut health. There's a connection between your nervous system health and how capable or not capable you're going to be through your change. Subconscious awareness, NLP. I started getting into all of it simultaneously. And so then that's when I made the shift from gut health, which I still do, but it's more focused on mindset, right? Trauma, mindset, like mind, body, soul connection, as you introduced in the beginning.
Well, we certainly like to talk about the mind body connection. How about mind, body, soul? You just deepened it. And how about gut brain? Do you still see that as being what's a stronger lever? Is it mindset or is it gut brain, or dependent case to case? How do you see it spilling out in the people you interact with?
It's not a tricky question to answer, but I don't think one comes before the other. I think that they need to both be looked at simultaneously, because if you overlook the other, like, you're going to not be like throwing spaghetti at the walls, but it's going to be a lot harder for you to overcome what you're overcoming and to hit your goals if you're not looking at both of them as equally important. Yeah.
I would certainly agree. And psychedelics. So interestingly enough, a lot of good information coming out with the absolute benefits. And I'm seeking for my patients as well. And oddly enough, I had a patient just ask me about PTSD the other day and psychedelics. I said, look, as far as I know, the data is evolving. It's looking good. It's hard to get. Well, he found out he could get DMT in Texas, but he couldn't get, let's say, psilocybin. And the people that use it are suggesting that it's an option, which is okay. I don't know about the regulators with that, but is it psilocybin you're talking about? Another mushroom, another psychedelic? Which ones do you have experience with, and which ones do you believe are best?
For me, it started with the psilocybin, and then for me, because the drugs and alcohol addiction got so bad, I didn't want to necessarily go to a traditional rehab, but I knew I needed support, and I was I was on that spiritual path. I don't think I was even using that word back then, but I went into an ayahuasca ceremony in Costa Rica, actually, here like 6 years ago, and that was the catalyst. It did not fix all my problems. Like, I'm not saying drink ayahuasca and you're gonna be like all the things, but that was the catalyst that introduced me to other things. So yeah, when I'm saying plant medicines and psychedelics, it's psilocybin, it's ayahuasca. I also work with Cambo, Bufo, but also do prep and integration at a psilocybin retreat center in Canada. And they work with veterans with PTSD. So I just wanted to share that, because you sharing that, I was like, yeah, it's a thing. And we're starting to get a lot more research done in it. And that's actively happening in a small town in Canada.
You know what? Sometimes I think there's a lot of great plant medicine that's been suppressed for a lot of different reasons. And I'm going to put psilocybin and ayahuasca in that category. I started studying ayahuasca maybe a decade ago, did it with a shaman from Colombia, oddly enough, outside of Toronto, and found it very, very fascinating. My experience wasn't, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever, and this was the greatest change, and they access so much. But, I don't know that you get there on 1, 2, or 3 times, but some people there, whatever chronic issues they were dealing with, they felt like they were ahead of it, maybe for the first time in a long, long time. So it's a nice bridge outward. Jack Canfield is now writing a new book. I don't know if you're familiar with the series Chicken Soup for the Soul. Mm-hmm. Biggest selling series of all time, over 500 million books. His next book, Plant Medicine for the Soul. He's a huge fan of plant medicine, and he feels like it's expanding his consciousness. So that's the other end of it, right? So we're talking about people going through trauma. And if I were to go, we have people that are really struggling for survival because their own body is torturing them. And then those that just want to expand and make the world better. Those are two different spectrums, but yet these plants seem to help with all of it. So have you had experience with both ends yourself, right? You started out on the low end, and
Yeah.
How did that help you get out of it?
Oh yeah. So I've seen everything. And for me, the first time I did it, it was more of, because again, I was so closed off. I was so avoidant. I was so not wanting to feel, or I was so not wanting to go there. So it took a lot for the medicine to come into me. I wasn't fully properly prepared, like I'm sure everyone else was. But the things that I witnessed, people were having like purging their hearts out and having heart surgeries and like all of these crazy things. I mean, I didn't know that was happening. I was just seeing things. But then in the share circles afterwards, integration, people are sharing what's happening, feeling like little bionic little people doing surgery on them. And then also hearing the stories of coming back, because sometimes it just takes like one little download, one little insight, aha moment to be like, or like a new perspective. Sometimes when you're so in it, when you're so in your trauma, you can't see the higher perspective. You can't get the lessons, right? And so sometimes when you're doing the medicine, you can receive that if you're open and clear and, properly prepared. But for me, it introduced me, it helped me purge everything out. I have photos of myself before ayahuasca. I'm holding maybe about 20, 25 pounds of extra weight. My skin, that was in March. I went away in April. In May, you see the photos. It's like a 6-month transformation, but it literally was like 2 weeks.
Well, let's talk about purge. Cystic acne is the body's not eliminating appropriately. We've got the lungs, we've got bowel, we've got liver, we've got kidneys, we've got sweat. And when we overburden the other systems or they're not keeping up, our skin is an excretory organ and possibly the largest one in most people. So you start thinking about that and saying, okay, you use that very proper term, but in that case, it was emotional purging that literally led to poisoning of your physical body. And you need to address both to resolve it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was emotional and energetic. And that was being suppressed and stored.
Okay, so what was your experience when you finally had the breakthrough? So maybe it wasn't your first session. How many sessions did it take? And then what did you experience?
Oh my gosh. Okay. What did I experience? Well, obviously it's like the enlightenment, the bliss, the peace. And then you get home, you get back to your everyday routine. And then it's a little bit jarring. It's a little bit like, oh, okay, we're not living in Kumbaya land anymore all the time. So that's when the real work starts to happen. And that's when I realized too. So then, okay, I need to stay consistent. I don't need to, I don't have to, but I'm choosing to if I want this. Somatics, nervous system regulation, tapping, breath work, dance, movement for me was my biggest one. It still is. Just working out of some sort. But these habits need to stay consistent in order for me to stay consistent through this transformation. Otherwise, I'm going to fall back into the subconscious programming, into the old ways of being, because it's so conditioned. I need to spend my time differently. I need new habits.
I think you are of the generation that gets the idea of subconscious programming. But I'm thinking there are some people that are saying, what are you talking about, my subconscious program? What does that mean to you?
Okay, so let me try to simply, our conscious mind, it's 10%. The subconscious mind is 90%. It's normally formed by the age of 7. It starts forming in the womb. And so it's all the messages that you've received, everything that you kind of witnessed, whether that was culturally in your school and your family dynamics, messages that you received. The biggest one is I'm not enough, or we don't have enough. If you grew up in a scarcity or lack home, or finances were hard, you'll have some sort of subconscious programming around money or finances. Or perhaps you grew up in a home where mom and dad were working all the time and you have to work hard to make a living. And so you're going to grow up to believe that too, until you get the awareness around it and say, I don't want that anymore, or I love that about myself and I love that about my upbringing. I'm going to choose to keep this. So the subconscious programming, it's your belief systems, it's your values, it's your identity, and it's everything that is running your ability to make decisions, your thought processes, everything. And again, you are not conscious of it. It's on autopilot.
Yeah, that's kind of the magic thing. And by the way, they have literally done brain mapping studies, and they call them the default mode network. What pattern do you fall into? Mm-hmm. And there's some debate. How much is what's less than conscious driving our behaviors? Most people are going to say the majority. Some people are going to say the minority. When I say minority, 49%, not like it's less than 10% or something like that. It's a huge part. People agree on that. And so now there's the debate. If you have an injury, do you have to go relive it, process it, make peace with it, or is there just a way to wire over it?
Well, that's then. So it's so funny because I was trained as a somatic practitioner for so long. And just recently as of this year, I'm going into the NLP and hypnosis, which is more actually going above the timeline and getting the higher perspectives and not actually having to sit in the emotions in the somatic body. So I think you can do either or. I think it depends on the level of trauma. I think it depends on the person, the practitioner, the relationship. I think what do you think?
I've got patients and colleagues that are in the quantum realm. I even wrote the foreword from Pain to Purpose for Gabe Roberts, who works in that quantum realm. And, they make statements of essentially being able to dissolve the post-traumatic stress in sometimes as quick as a single session. Now, I think that would be an exceptional case. The people I see that have PTSD, if I could wave a magic wand and take it away, I would. I just hadn't found that path. And I'm so happy that there's more awareness of psilocybin, of ayahuasca, of body work, of breath work, of connecting with nature. And then, like you said, awareness. That's your primary message. So what's the basics of getting started with awareness? Let's just say I'm like most people, totally unaware. I made this statement. I said, most people, are so disconnected from themselves, you wonder if they even live in their body. So what's the starting point?
Oh, I think that's another question that's like, well, it's different for everyone. What's the starting point? There's normally a catalyst. There's normally like a rock bottom or a moment, pretty significant. I keep using the word traumatic, but it's just like a moment in time that you're like, I can't, you make the decision, like, I can't keep operating like this, or I'm ready for more depth, more passion, more love, more joy, or like there's something missing, but there's normally an event that happens that makes you get to that point, right? For some of us, we might just wake up one day and say, "Hey, I like."
Yeah, Bruce Lipton. I love. He's a master of programming the subconscious. And Candace Pert wrote Molecules of Emotion. I guess his was Biology of Belief, which was so good. And I've seen him in person. But he talks about three things: a serious trauma, like you're talking about, or recognition something needs to change, love, right, or some other form of high inspiration, or something that's very traumatic can shift people very, very fast. Something that's very amazing can shift people very, very fast. But what he said is most people, it's somehow making whatever decision and baby stepping your way through with consistency.
I'm all about consistency. And then there's also, thank you for sharing that. I learned a lot from Bruce Lipton, and that's where I get a lot of like my teaching from, like outside of school, but like I just like listen to him for fun. So thank you. But then why can't we stay consistent? A lot of us struggle with that. 95% of my clients struggle with consistency.
That's a low number compared to those that I see. I'm going to give it close to 99. So what's up with that? What have you found hacks to help them get through that?
I mean, different things. I think the number one thing that I'll share that seems to be a commonality is the nervous system, right? This is how I portray it. You might portray it differently. Like, I love how everyone speaks about it, but they're frozen in fear. They're like, so in the procrastination, or they're like stuck in the multiple different sympathetics, which we're supposed to be in during the day, but it's an unhealthy sympathetic. And so we're just like in this chaotic, stressful, like we're not actually like regulated, right? And taking proper exhales and inhales, and therefore change can't occur. Therefore consistency can't stay the same. The nervous system is designed to keep you safe. And so if it feels not safe doing something new, it's not going to do it.
A deep breath resets everything, even for Navy SEALs. And they like breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth, because the nose does so many things. It actually ionizes the air, moisturizes it, filters it. They suggest it may do something even different with the energy of it. So besides breathing, and I see you connected with nature, what are some easy things people can do daily to raise that awareness and start moving towards healing?
My top three: movement.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to lift weights, try yoga. If you don't like yoga, go for a walk. If you don't like that, go for a run. There's so many ways that we can move our bodies. Dance is amazing. There's so many studies coming out about dance. And then tapping.
Tapping.
Tapping. It's like the easiest thing. It's like the easiest thing to do, and you can like do it anywhere.
So I dance in that circle, and I'm still skeptical about that, even though I have NET practitioners, that they get some epic success. Why is it that my logical mind can't say that this is going to change my subconscious and make my whole body work better? But you see different results.
For myself personally, yeah. I mean, my clients say they see results, but I don't know that for sure. But I know for myself, I feel better. I was nervous before this podcast. I get nervous for things like this, and I'll always do some tapping and on a few minutes, and I feel better. Maybe it's placebo effect. I don't know, but I feel better.
You know what? I don't care what the result is. You're getting better from it. And most of us doctors don't care about placebo. We just want the patient getting better. When we understand mechanisms, it makes us a little more consistent, which, by the way, I'm going to give a sponsor plug real quick. So bettercoffeeshop.com, the world's best organic reishi infused coffee. You talk about God's pharmacy, nature's pharmacy, the top superfood. Reishi has all the fabulous 50, all the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, proteins, carbohydrates, fat, fiber, and water to make a difference in human health. It also has 430 unique molecules, 79 of which are antimicrobial, and is epic for balancing brain chemistry. I haven't seen the study yet on PTSD and reishi, but here's what I can tell you. It's not going to hurt, and who knows, it might even help. Go to bettercoffeeshop.com, take our 1-box challenge. You'll be glad you did. So mushrooms, do you have much experience with those?
Yes, like reishi and cordyceps, or like so.
Those are the big ones. Let's go with all the above. So we talked about the psychedelics, and maybe people didn't know those were in the mushroom category. What about reishi and cordyceps? Do you see them having play in somatic healing?
Absolutely. I'm not so educated on it, but I do use them myself. I know you're the more educated one here about that. And so I'd love for you to share what you believe with the somatics and the mushrooms. But I personally take them.
Let's talk a couple things. It's called the herb of spiritual potency. That part's really, really good. It's known to have anti-aging, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, immune modulation activity. 3,500 published studies. It used to be reserved for the royal family. But here's what I can tell you. No known toxicity, no known drug interaction. And bettercoffeeshop.com has it in coffee and tea, which, by the way, consistency is what we're talking about. Do you consistently drink your coffee? I don't miss a day of my entire life. And one of my mentors says this, and by the way, Sachin Patel, I'll give him a shout out. He was actually hired to be either the CEO or CFO of a psychedelic company, Psilocybin, for PTSD. And then something went awry with their funding or board or something like that. So that didn't happen yet, although someday I'd like him to do that. There's a man I respect who really digs in and gave me my first microdose. Oddly enough, I didn't feel anything with it at all. But when I talk to microdose people, they say, it just nourishes the brain when you're pretty balanced. You might not feel it. So I'm assuming you microdose with the psilocybin type.
Yep. I'll put people on microdose protocols if I feel it's fit, if I feel it's best for them, or if they're even interested. Sometimes people aren't interested. And I don't think it's like the end all be all, like the fix, but I think it's amazing if you're open-minded to it.
Well, I love that you meet people where they are, honor them and their value system, and move forward. And I kind of wish all of medicine would do that. All of healthcare would do that. But now we come into this idea that, you want to have a pro or someone with some level of experience. Are there other people around that have been doing this for a while, like a shaman? And have you seen anything that would be concerning where you say, don't try this at home alone?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you should definitely know who your shaman is. I am not a shaman. I'm not serving the medicine. I'm supporting the shaman. My now fiance and his mom are shamans from Colombia, actually. So it's ironic that you said that you're experienced. Yeah. But yeah, and she's a Chinese medicine practitioner, and they know their stuff. And now I'm bringing in the somatics, the subconscious, the nervous system, the gut health, all that for preparation and integration. So I'm not a shaman, but you should definitely vet them. And where did they train? What's their lineage? Like, some people are coming out of, they're going away and doing ayahuasca for the week. And then same year, they're doing their own retreats. You hear about that a lot. And especially maybe not so much with ayahuasca, but a lot with mushrooms, right? So you just want to make sure you know who your facilitators are, what's their training, what's their background, what's their experience, the lineage, because there's such a sacredness to the medicine. It's not just, I've been doing it for years. I've sat in so many ceremonies, but I would never even say I'm a shaman. It's not.
I love that you make that clear. So you have this huge dose of humility, and you also say, I'm not ready for this, but I know who is, and let me share them with you. One of my patients gifted me a book years ago called Clan of the Cave Bears. And there's something about the evolution of humanity. There used to be 6 human type species, right? Neanderthals, Homo sapien, Homo erectus, Homo anthropus, stuff like that. But it was the women that were the medicine women. It was the women that had the intuition to essentially communicate with nature and bring back. I don't know where that ever changed, but I see women as being far more nurturing, nourishing, connected, who knows, maybe open to the higher consciousness. So you have a shaman and his mother So that's very, very fascinating. So he's a second generation shaman.
Third, she's second, and then grandfather. Yeah.
Okay. I like that level of lineage. So what's the most profound thing that you've learned from them?
So much. How do I just choose one?
Pick 2 or 3 then. Pick 2 or 3.
Okay, let's talk. I think just the reverence and respect for the medicine. Obviously, learning a lot about holding ceremony and what that really entails. Not the behind the scenes.
Expand that. I want to know.
Clearing, the proper clearing of energy. Like when people are purging, they're not just like throwing up. There's a lot of entities possibly coming out of there. There's a lot of things that are coming out that's all energetic. And if we're not properly clearing the space, we're not honoring them, and we're definitely not honoring the rest of the participants. There's a big buildup leading into working with medicine and after that I'm now a part of, like when we're about to host these retreats, there's so much preparation that goes into it, so much care, but not just like in the physical realms, in the quantum realms. Specific prayers, specific rituals, specific intentions. And so I'm learning so much about that as well. And from my mother-in-law, she also does like acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And I'm learning so much about all of that with her too. And she's helped me a lot with my skin. So yeah.
Well, how beautiful. And I've done ayahuasca. I've done shamanic breath work. I've done the microdose psychedelics. Now that I didn't do under any type of ceremony. Maybe that would have made a difference. But the others, it was so amazing how the energy evolved. And, I did a fire walk with an Indian chief, and most of it was preparation, not just preparing the fire, but preparing the body, mind, and spirit. And you walk across, fresh, hot embers and you don't burn your feet. And it was all about that reverence, that connectedness with nature. And this guy just longed for the days when man and earth work together. And it looks like you're trying to bring that back. So how powerful. So what's the best way for people to start exploring with you or away from you? What do you recommend?
If they're wanting to reconnect with nature, I think that's a beautiful thing. I know in Canada right now it's winter and it's freezing cold outside, but really getting your bare feet in the ground for a few minutes every single day, getting that sunlight in the morning, and like really just making sure you get outside, even if it's cold. I'm not saying go barefoot in the snow, but really, really being intentional with your day and your time. And what's your connection with nature right now? And if it's not winter, like definitely get outside. We have retreats in Costa Rica at least once from January to May. And we also host retreats in Canada as well.
Where in Canada?
So it's Ontario.
So how close to Toronto?
Yeah. So we live in a place called Vaughan, which is like really close outside of. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then they're like 2 hours north. 2 hours north of Toronto. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what months do you do the retreats in Toronto?
May and October. And then I do all my work online.
Wonderful.
If anyone's looking for like additional support with their nervous system, or if they're in a transition, like all my work is online.
All right. So we're going to give links where people can reach you, but what's the best way online to get you?
My Instagram, it's kelseymarie.wellness.
And you are that. I would actually go kelseymarie.wellness, triple exclamation point. Final words of wrap up for our crowd. We're at that magic 30 minutes of podcast time, which seems to be the right window for my audience. What words do you want to leave everybody with?
Self-awareness is the key to your success. Self-awareness is the key to your success through your transition, through your transformation, and living a more consistent, healthy, happy, aligned life. Self-awareness is your superpower.
You're an old soul. We want to develop that wonderful superpower. And as always, I'm Dr. Bob Rakowski, absolutely knowing that we can all be happy, healthy, and successful.